Hi there, Richard Filmer here, and welcome to another Richard's Rock Rambles, Hidden Gems. So if I asked you, write down your top 5 or 6, even 10 rock guitarists. Many of you would have Jimi Hendrix, Richie Blackmore, Eddie Van Halen, Tony Iommi, Randy Rhoads. But I wonder how many would write down the name Allan Holdsworth. That's the guy we're chatting about today, and an album of his called Road Games. In fact, it's not a full-length album, it's an EP, or as it was written on the record, specially priced 6-cut mini album. It's an EP, really. This guy had such a distinctive style, it was almost otherworldly. I think for his style, or the craziness of his playing and the innovativeness of his playing, is that the right word? The only other person I can compare him to is Frank Zappa, for being just totally out there on the guitar. He didn't follow any particular path. He did his own thing. Very unique style. He was part of a band called UK, which I have mentioned previously in one of my videos here. I think I did the 3 albums that they did. So he was with them for the first album. He's also done other solo albums. But the one we're chatting about today, the mini album, Road Games. There we go, Allan Holdsworth, Road Games. So what style is this? Well, if you're into jazz rock fusion, this is the one for you. Incredible time changes, intricate playing, and the guys that he's got on the album with him are all top-notch, obviously. I think you'd have to be to play along with Allan Holdsworth. So on the album, well, first let me just tell you when it was released. It was released in 1983, so this is an 80s album. And if you think 83 was when all the new wave stuff was happening, and so this kind of music was sort of pushed to the back. It wasn't really everybody's flavor of the month anymore. But I think it still did pretty well. It actually got nominated for a Grammy in, I think, Best Instrumental Album. He wasn't very happy with the album because he never got royalties from it for some strange reason. And so he wasn't entirely happy with it, but it did pretty well. Released in 83, recorded at the Music Grinder Studios in Los Angeles, and produced by Allan Holdsworth and Ted Templeman. Now, there's a name that might ring a bell. Ted Templeman, well-known producer in the States. He did, I think, the first 5 or 6 Van Halen albums. So, yeah, a really good producer. And there is a CD edition that was released only in 2001. So this was only available on vinyl. I'm not sure about cassette for many years before the CD version came out. So not many tracks, so this isn't going to be a long video. In fact, there's only 6 tracks on here. Let me just tell you who else is in the album, or who else plays on the album. So you got Allan Holdsworth on guitar, Jeff Berlin on bass guitar, stunning bass guitarist, played a really nice fretless. He was in a band called Bruford with Bill Bruford for a while, amongst other people. Chad Wackerman on drums. Chad Wackerman, of course, played with Frank Zappa for quite a while. Excellent drummer. So you got just the right mix here as far as musos go. And then there are a couple of special guests. One in particular whose name you should recognize, Jack Bruce. Of course, Jack Bruce from Cream, a bunch of solo albums. He doesn't play bass on this album. He sings. He sings on the last 2 tracks. Then there's also backing vocals by somebody called Joe Turano, Paul Corder, and there's a guy who takes leads vocals, Paul Williams, on the track Road Games, the title track. Does a pretty good version as well. So mostly an instrumental with 3 instrumental and 3 vocal tracks. All really interesting, really good stuff. It's not top 20. It's not I Love You Babe tracks. This is not commercial. But for musicality and musicianship, it's stunning. It's probably one of the, if I'm looking for something in the jazz rock fusion line to listen to, I'll reach for this quite often. What else can I tell you? Recorded at Music Grinder Engineers. Thanks to Eddie Van Halen. Who else has he mentioned here? Frank Zappa, Jack Bruce. So you pretty much know what you're going to get just by the thank yous on the album. And yeah, there's not much else to show you inside. It's just the vinyl. There we go. It's actually a second hand. Pretty good nick. I found this at one of the vinyl fairs. So the tracks you have was 3 Sheets to the Wind with incredible time changes, and just the guitar work of this guy was so out there. The sounds he would get, the tones. No other guitarist sounded like Allan Holdsworth. Then you had the title track Road Games, which features Jack Bruce on lead vocals, a very cool track. And then to end off the first side, Water on the Brain Part 2, which is quite strange because there isn't a Water on the Brain Part 1 on the album. So who knows? Cheers. Then we get into side 2 of this EP. Tokyo Dream was there, and Material Real was there. Material Real are the 2 tracks with what's his name, Paul Williams. Where are we? Yes, Paul Williams on lead vocals. Does a pretty good job as well. So there we go. Short and sweet. Not a very long album, but one which is essential if you're into jazz rock fusion. Allan Holdsworth has long been one of my favorite guitarists, simply because he is so unique. He doesn't sound like anybody else. Also, as I mentioned, check out the very first UK album, the band UK, which featured Bill Bruford, Allan Holdsworth, Eddie Jobson, John Wetton, sort of a super group in the progressive rock vein. He plays on there. Stunning stuff. He didn't last for the second album. He left, and they didn't have a second guitarist on the second album. I think Eddie Jobson just did his violin thing. And there's also a live album. But if you can find that, or this, or any of Allan Holdsworth's work, it's worth checking out. Thanks, guys, for watching. Please, if you haven't done so yet, down below, subscribe. Give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed the video. And I shall see you soon. Stay well. Cheers.